Good evening, everyone. The time is a 12 or 13 minutes to 7 p.m. South Africa time, and a big welcome to everyone around the world. And it's so wonderful to have some past guests back with us and some new guests as well. Roanna, welcome. It's your first time on one of our webinars.
Yes, hello, how are you? Nice to see you.
Fantastic. We're expecting at least 3,000 people to be watching us tonight across the various platforms. So I hope you're prepared to blow people's socks off.
Sure, we'll try our best.
So, welcome. Lovely to see you. Anne has become a great regular, and this is, I think, the third time you've done your presentation.
The third year, and I'm just so happy to have my panel, Sue and Roanna, and then Cam's also joining. It's wonderful to be here and to be able to share the insights with you.
Oh, absolutely brilliant.
Nice to see you.
Sue, as people come in, we always chat for the first 15 minutes and make everyone comfortable, and people enter the room and people participate and tell us where in the world they are. Tonight is, in fact, the 159th webinar that we've done since lockdown began. And we originally started this just to help people with medical advice during COVID. And we've now been watched about 4 million times, which we think makes the largest live webinar channel in Africa.
Amazing. Wow.
We're just going to pretend that we're talking to 5 people, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Just so we don't have any nerves.
But I want to know, between Sue and Roanna, is green the new color? Because I'm in green, you guys are in green. And where did you not get the memo?
Well, it's a variation of green. I've got green in it. So I did get the memo.
At least we know we're not green screening tonight, otherwise we'd all be a little invisible.
I like your wallpaper though, it's very expressive, it's lovely.
Thank you. I'm in Cape Town at the moment. I came because I heard the weather was really good, except it's changing tomorrow.
Yeah, it is apparently. I just came back from there, actually. I was there for a few days and the weather was amazing.
I believe weather was fantastic last week.
Yeah, it was great. Camilla,
look how we wanted you back for the second year in a row. You must have done something right last year.
I mean, despite a couple of comments I made about, if you remember it, actually, I won't even go into it now.
It had to do with condoms and an ick factor of middle to elderly people having sex.
Yes, and old people having sex isn't gross, you know? I think it was the real takeout. Guys, excuse this one beam of light here. I'm in the middle of load shedding.
Oh, nice.
So I'm trying to put on as few things as possible to keep the Wi-Fi going.
We'll take whatever light we can get. And I see that Anne says hello from Los Angeles, where it's nearly 10 a.m. and Adam is watching us from Cape Town, and Jean is in Johannesburg. So please tell us where in the world you are at the moment. We'd love to actually know, and some of our guests can understand the global reach that we have. We've got this amazing thing where we've got people who watch us in places like Costa Rica and Panama and Nigeria and the United Arab Emirates, besides for always great audiences in places like the United States, Canada, England, Israel, and the Australians refuse to get up in the middle of the night to watch us. So it seems so unfair. And Ruth is busy watching us from Scotland. We'd love to know where in Scotland, Ruth. It must be amazing. Middle of summer, I'm sure it's going to be dark or light until very late. And Rona Walpert is watching us in Mooley Point. I think see you out of my window, Rona, if I look carefully. And Richard is in Cincinnati, and Renee is in Bantry Bay. And it looked like an ominous cloud was even moving into Cape Town this evening.
I think so.
So, Camilla, catch us up on the last year. What's the thing you're most proud of since last you were on one of these shows?
It has been an incredibly busy year. I think I'm kind of most proud of how our agency has done over the last year. I think it's been a huge amount of work. But I think we've built an incredible team. We've got a lot of passionate youngsters, which I think is most exciting for me, to see the youth getting really sort of inspired by the advertising life. But yeah, no, it has been bloody hard work. but we've created a couple of projects that I'm very proud of. We ended up winning in Cannes, which
So
we were
tell
always hoping
tell
for,
us
but was
quickly
very
what you won.
surprising.
Tell us what you won for.
So we won a gold in outdoor for a project called Bread of the Nation.
Tell us about that.
I mean, I think Anne might be sharing it a little bit later.
I'm going to share it. I'm going to share it's my last case study. So I think let's wait for that, Howie. But I think what's also important that Cam isn't telling you is that Bread of the Nation was also shortlisted as a titanium. So the Titanium Award is the biggest award at Cannes. And it's the first time any South African agency has got a shortlist. So it was a very, very big deal. This campaign is for SA breweries. So the client was in Cannes, the agency was in Cannes. It was all very, very exciting. They didn't win, but I think if we think about it really carefully, the ones that they lost out to, I think it was the scale, because you lost out to the Chinese campaign also from AB InBev. So it's an amazing campaign, and I'm going to show it to you during my presentation.
So Cam, tell us what it's like even when you win a gold. What happens?
You know, I mean, I think it's a moment of ecstasy for about 10 minutes and then you're back to work. So I wasn't in Cannes this year myself.
I would have said 10 seconds.
I mean, yeah. I unfortunately wasn't in Cannes myself this year. We were working on a massive pitch at the same time. So, you know, I didn't really get to have the full experience of enjoying the win and the multiple tequilas that come afterwards. But I think what's most exciting about this project is it's ongoing. And it took many years to get off the ground, about 3 years. I mean, I know, Anne, you're going to go into a bit more detail, but I'm just going to give a little bit of the basics. So we were given this brief by a client about 3 years ago, so just when I joined Ogilvy, and it was to communicate Castle Lager's ingredients. They're 100% homegrown. They sourced, you know, within the borders of the country. And I mean, this has been a beer that's been around forever, I think sort of 127 years, if I'm not mistaken. And the quality is sort of impeccable. So they came to us with this brief, please do an ad about the ingredients. So what it could have been, I guess, is one of those beautiful sort of beer porn videos, which is full of the grain sort of in the wind. But we decided to try something a bit different. And we started by testing the ingredients. And it's the first time I've actually sort of been involved in that side of the ad industry, where you're actually really sort of playing with the product and understanding it better. And we realized that even after the beer had been brewed and the byproduct left behind still had a massive protein and nutritional value, which is something that we didn't quite see coming. And it shows you just how good the ingredients are. And then from that, we ended up turning this byproduct into a flour. That flour then was distributed all over South Africa through the sort of ridiculous network that we tried to create. We partnered with hundreds of community bakeries, and in those bakeries, they made bread, which we distributed for free. So it was an incredible project, a very exhausting project, but something everyone just backed and got behind. What's great now is that the client have said that they will feed 1 million people over the next 3 years. But our audacious goal is to get this overseas to work with brands that are similar within the AB InBev network. So it's been very exciting. I remember when we got the first loaf delivered to my office that didn't just crumble in your hand, people went mental. I tasted a lot of bread that, you know, wasn't quite where it should be. So it was something to create this recipe.
That sounds amazing. Ra, I want to ask you, because you've been a judge at Cannes, and I wrote some copy for our reminder, and Anne freaked out completely. And my copy went like this, and I thought I was being conservative. Opposite the billion-dollar yachts and the Russian oligarchs dripping in diamonds, across the road, the ad world goes into a feeding frenzy.
You also spoke about the Botoxed woman.
It was the Russian oligarchs and the Botoxed woman. The Botoxed Russian oligarchs. And I thought I was being conservative, but I've never been to Cannes. I don't come out of your world. But, you know, in my mind, and I think the mind of people out there, everyone's lining up to snort coke on a toilet seat. There's like, some people have to bring their own toilet seats to Cannes in order to snort the coke. Is that what it's like? Give us a sense of what Cannes is like during the festival.
Well, I'm dying to hear this answer.
Yeah, I'm also
You are, hey. So yes, we don't go into a feeding frenzy or a snorting frenzy. We go into a creative frenzy. That we do. I did quite like some of your copy, not all of it, but we can work on that later. But you know, Cannes, as I always explain it to everybody that has never been, it's the Olympics of the advertising world, right? So it's incredible because countries from all over the world, I think it's about 51 countries in total, are competing. And the beauty of Cannes is that, you know, we don't compete as agencies, we go there to compete as a country, which is really lovely, you know, because, you know, as a nation, you're almost getting behind the creative work of your country. And for me, that's very, very powerful. And yeah, when you go there and you're a judge, it's a lot of hard work. You sit in these dark judging rooms. You don't actually get to see the beautiful hot sunshine for very long. And you just sit there and you go through piles and piles of work. In my category, I actually judged outdoor, which is where the Bread of the Nation actually won a gold in. We had, I think it was just under 2,000 entries. And now you can imagine how that's as a pile of work to go through before, you know, to judge is a humongous amount. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. There's a lot of work that goes into Cannes even before you even get to Cannes, because you've got to do a whole lot of pre-round of judging. So you obviously get through to, and you sort of sift through the work to get to the best. And then in Cannes, you look at the shortlist and you really, you really get into the ideas, and, you know, you start to debate with the other judges. And I mean, in that judging room is, again, people from all walks of the world and different nations. It's just so lovely, you know, the cultural background that you get to share with different people. And when work comes up, you know, because some people understand certain cultural, ideas and some don't, and then you discuss the work, and it's just so beautiful as an experience to connect creatively around the world and learn about each other's kind of insights and where the work comes from, where the origins come from. I mean, as an experience, it's mind-blowing. It really, really is. It's beautiful.
So then come 10 p.m. Sorry, just to say, come 10 p.m., then everyone hits the gutter bar, and then things get a bit crazy.
Do they?
And also, you get offered a lot of bottles of rosé everywhere you go. And before you even get there, you get offered bottles of rosé by agencies trying to bribe. There's a little bit of that goes on.
So Sue, before we start officially, tell us, once you're there, do people get us? Do we have a unique South African sense of the world? And do people understand that? Or is all of this work universal?
Yeah, I think that the thing about Cannes that's so beautiful is that, you know, you go through phases where certain regions are the flavor, and there was a time where South America was the flavor, and then it was the Indias, and then it was, you know, it's every time there's a region that comes up tops. And I think that South Africa has always flown the flag really high, especially in a radio category. I think we always show up every single year, if I'm not mistaken. So we are known very well in Cannes. We are known, you know, all over the world. We stand on that stage, on the international stage, you know, with everybody. But I think what's lovely about the work that we're doing, or what's lovely about Cannes, is that you see really strong cultural pieces coming through, pieces that really represent nations, represent stories out of those regions that can only come from those regions. So I think that's what's lovely about it. And it's been encouraged every single year in the same way.
Well, the time has just gone 7 p.m. South Africa time, and a huge welcome to everyone around the world. A big welcome to all of our guests. And Anne Nurock, you are back for the third successive year to tell us about the best creative minds in the world. How was Cannes this year?
Oh, well, my opening slide is that the mood was joyous. I mean, it was my 11th time, and I've never known, I don't know if Ro felt the same way. Well, even the most hardened critics of Cannes, and there usually are some, everybody was, the consensus was it was just kind of happier than usual. People were a lot more optimistic. I think maybe because last year we just come out of the pandemic. Now we've had a year. And then you're going to see, and I don't want to give away my presentation, but, you know, humor is back. I mean, the last 2 years, everything has been so serious and so dreary. And so now things, you know, there's work that's making people smile. And there's a lot of other stuff that I will talk about. But for me, it was the best Cannes experience I've had. I thought it was incredible.
So, and every year you invite to join us some of the best creative minds in the country. And interestingly, your selection this year are 3 remarkable women.
Absolutely.
I'm feeling very outnumbered. Is creativity the domain of the female gender? I don't know if we have genders anymore. We're allowed to have genders.
Possibly. I don't think it's a sole domain. I chose these 3 wonderful women, firstly, because it's Women's Month, and secondly, because all 3 of them are so creative in their own right. So I thought it would be fantastic if we had women this year and no men. So sorry that you outnumbered, Howie, but there was a purpose behind my, there was a purpose behind it. But yes, these 3 are incredibly creative.
At least I got the green color memo. Cam's already apologized that that she's not in green, but maybe during your presentation, she'll quickly run off screen and change. Who knows?
It's worth it.
So to everyone, tonight is our 159th webinar that we've done since lockdown began, and a big welcome to everyone around the world. It's so fantastic to see that Barbara just told us she's watching us from Toronto, Jacqueline's in Randburg, Morris is in Cape Town, Jeff is in Johannesburg, Gary's in Roanna in Israel, Karine is in London. Once again, we have this remarkable audience all over the world. So a big welcome to all of you. Of course, the webinars are brought to you by the South African Jewish Report. And we want to make sure that you've picked up your latest edition of the newspaper. So Dylan, we know that people can pick up their newspaper at Pick and Pay and Checkers and Discam at their local garage, spaza shop, school, butchery. Tell us what's on the front cover this week.
Yeah, good evening, Howard. I'm very excited for this webinar. I remember last year's was unbelievable, so I'm very excited. And yeah, look, I mean, you just spoke about being in Cape Town, and it sounds like things have gone back to normal, but last week things were anything but normal. And obviously that made our front page.
So in fact, an Israeli family quite badly injured during the taxi strike last week, and devastating that a British doctor lost his life during the taxi violence as well. And I'm going to later on in the evening ask all of our panelists, because, you know, we're talking about the fact that Cannes is countries competing for creativity, but Brand South Africa takes an enormous knock when something like this happens. So a little later on this evening, we're actually going to be asking all of our panelists to what do we do to get South Africa's image in the international arena and the tourist world back onto a right footing. And clearly something like this, our front page of the newspaper this week, doesn't really help. But if you haven't gotten a hard copy of the newspaper, and we're in approximately 240 locations around South Africa, don't forget that you can go onto our website, sajr.co.za. You can either download the entire newspaper, you can see over there, download the latest edition, or alternatively, you can look at each and every article individually on our website as well. And if you've missed any of our webinars, please don't forget that on our website, there's a webinar button, or you can go to the SA Jewish Reports YouTube page. And Dylan, last week, we were trying to show this remarkable documentary about a rape in India that took place in 2012. It's called India's Daughter. And YouTube mistakenly decided that in fact we had a copyright violation, even though we had been granted the rights to show it, and they cut us in the middle of our broadcast. But we've now cleared up issues with YouTube, and at some point in time during the next week, we'll be sending out a link so people who missed not only our documentary that we showed on the eve of Women's Day, but our amazing discussion with Leslie Adwin. Now, Leslie, for those people who don't know, is a South African actress and director. She's won a BAFTA award, and she went to go and make a documentary about this rape in India, and she managed to get into the prison. She interviewed the rapists. She interviewed the lawyers of the rapists, and those interviews are even more shocking than the story itself. Rapists who didn't understand why they had done anything wrong, because culturally, a woman should just not be out on the streets at 8 p.m. in the evening. And Leslie is an individual who decided to do something about it. And so she's worked out, together with some of the greatest educationalists around the world, that a child's mind is most malleable between ages of 3 and 6. And if you can educate a child to respect women at that age, you can change the entire future trajectory of that generation. And that's exactly what she's done now in 26 countries around the world. Hundreds of thousands of kids being educated to respect women and treat them as equal, and trying to stop the scourge of rape. In South Africa, where she's all over the Eastern Cape and expanding throughout South Africa, and in another 25 countries around the world as well. So we'll be sending out a link later on in the week to everyone who missed that broadcast, just in case you're watching on YouTube and were unable to do so. So Dylan, thank you for joining us this evening. Much appreciated. Please save the date. Jewish Achiever Awards are once again upon us. 21st of October, please dial our date. When we broadcast, we have about 50,000 people who watch us online, and about 1,000 people who come to one of the most remarkable, spectacular shows ever seen in the country. And our theme this year is We Are More Than, and every week we change the theme, and this is We Are More Than Just Gender. And we show some of the remarkable Jewish people who have in fact changed the perception of gender around the world. We've used someone like Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman, in this week's advertisement, but the campaign evolves and changes every week. So Dil, thanks for joining us, and let's welcome back all of our panelists, and let's introduce everyone. Anne, give us a 30-second version of who you are.
Okay, my name is Anne Nurock. I'm currently a partner at Relationship Audits and Management. We're a global consultancy that measures and optimizes business-to-business relationships. My previous life, I was the CEO of Grey South Africa and Grey Canada. And in my spare time, I cover Cannes Lions for the Creative Circle of South Africa and Biz Community. And yeah, for the last 8 years, I've been bringing back the trends and presenting them around the world, to be honest. So that's me in a nutshell.
One of the most sought after presentations in the advertising world.
But yeah, it's pretty booked. It's pretty heavily booked, which is, I'm very happy to say, very heavily booked.
So welcome back for the third time to Camilla Clerke. Welcome back to you for the second time. Introduce yourself, please.
So I'm Camilla Clerke. I'm Executive Creative Director of Ogilvy, South Africa. I'm based in Cape Town. And in my previous life, I tried to study to become an accountant until UCT kicked me out 6 years in and said no point. And then joined Red and Yellow and became a copywriter and living my passion, I have to say.
Did you see Gabby Bernstein has said Camilla is a legend? And of course, not just a legend, a winner this past year, a Golden Cannes Lion Award to you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sue, your first time here, so tell us who you are.
I'm Suhana Gordhan. I have just gone independent as a creative. I was before this the Chief Creative Officer for an agency called Duke. And I serve on the Lurie's board and the Creative Circle, and I'm also the African representative on the One Club board. I've been in advertising for about 20 years, and so then I think I've earned the title of Chief Auntie of Young Creatives, because I really love nurturing the young ones. And when I'm not doing advertising, I'm doing this thing called capoeira, which is a Brazilian martial arts. And everyone who knows me knows I do this thing, and they tease me that I do a deadly dance every single week. But I just say
I'm waiting to see you in long flowing white white roads. And I see Ellen and Margaret Hirsch from Hirsch's are busy watching us in Port Lauderdale. A big welcome to you guys. And Roanna, do we call you Judge?
I wouldn't call me Judge, but you can if you want. It's a bit of a weird, strange name for me. But yeah, no, I'm Roanna Williams. And yeah, I mean, I've been in the industry for quite a long time, over 20 years as well. I'm now also gone independent recently, actually very recently. And I was a chief creative officer previously at Network BBDO. And I'm also the chairperson of the Creative Circle, which is fun. It's like herding cats, but that's another story for another day. What else do I do? Oh yes, this year I did get to judge Cannes, which was an incredible experience. I was an outdoor juror at Cannes. I also got to judge the one show, which was in Puerto Rico, which was also an incredible experience. And yeah, in my spare time, I look after 4 children. I've got 4 girls. And I've got to say my claim to fame, because I think this is the right forum. My mother-in-law is Sally Williams. I don't know if you know Sally Williams Nougat.
Oh, of course. Who hasn't
mom-in-law
gifted her nougat on Shabbos to someone else?
Fantastic. So she's my mom-in-law. I'm hoping she's online, but I don't see her. She said she might join, but anyway. So yeah, and then in my spare time, I'm definitely a flat out artist. So I draw a lot. And that's kind of me in a nutshell.
So from what I heard is you look after children in your spare time. If anyone would like to drop off their children, you'll post your address and people will drop off wherever. Well, a big welcome to all of you. And to answer the person's question who asked, the anonymous person's question, of course, this recording will be on YouTube and will be available to everyone to watch thereafter. With that, Anne, I think the rest of us are all going to turn off our microphones and our cameras. We're going to watch your presentation of the best, most creative work that came out of Cannes this year. And then we're going to come back not only to have a discussion about the trends, and you can bring us back at any point in time, but we're also going to watch some of the favorite creative work that some of our other guests have submitted for us to watch this evening. So with that, Anne, you're getting us on the full screen. We're talking.
Yeah,
we're turning off our cameras.
If this play bar would move, I could then press play. Okay, can you all see my full screen?
We can, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So firstly, once again, thank you, Howie and the Jewish Report. It's an absolute joy to be here. This was the 70th anniversary of Cannes. Let me just see why my slides aren't moving. Give me one sec. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, so this was the 70th anniversary of Cannes. And as I said earlier, the mood was absolutely joyous. It almost felt like brands, agencies, and tech platforms have now adjusted to today's economic realities. And people are even cautiously optimistic for the rest of this year. I think, as everybody knows, we're living in unprecedented times of change and opportunity. AI is already having a profound impact on the world around us. And the thing I think that really made me excited about Cannes this year was that the awards celebrated brands and they put creativity firmly in the center. So the busiest man at Cannes this year was a man called Brad Lightcap. He's the chief operating officer of OpenAI. He's true IC to Sam Altman. And he was everywhere. And understandably, there was excitement and apprehension about Cannes, particularly amongst the creatives. And I think what we all heard, not just from him, but from Google and from everybody else, is that we are just at the beginning of this AI journey. No one has all the answers. AI is like raw clay, and it takes people with curiosity and creativity to really harness its potential. The impact of AI on jobs is that while some are going to grow, some are also going to decline, but most will change. We'll spend less time on sort of medial stuff and really focus on things that are more important, because AI will be able to do some of that work for us. But I think the one message that came through most of all was that the most important ingredient in AI is humans. So this is a man called Tor Myron. He is the Senior Vice President of Apple. He worked with agencies for 18 years. And in fact, when I was running Grey Canada, he was Chief Creative Officer of Grey New York and took it to amazing places. And now he's been with Apple for 7 years. He is one of the top 3 marketing directors in the world. Apple this year was Creative Brand of the Year, and they won a whole host of Lions. And he came onto the stage, and one of the things that he said, which made all my agency friends really happy, and which I absolutely agree with him on, is that agencies are forever. I mean, when I got into advertising 150 years ago, everybody said agencies are dead. They keep saying agencies are dead. And the bottom line is that this is what Tor said, and he said the internet, they said the internet was going to kill agencies. They said the rise of data was going to kill agencies. The rise of Facebook and Google would. But guess what? The agency model wins again. And the reason for this is that agencies have a superpower in that there is no one better telling concise and compelling storytelling than agencies. And the other secret weapon, not just the storytelling, is that they are seen, they are outsiders. And that's really important, as Tor said, because only an outsider can see clearly compared to those who are involved in the brand and sometimes caught up in the vortex, that it's hard to see outside it. So he said we really rely on our agencies. We pay them to challenge us, and their income's the real challenge for agencies. He also gave a whole lot of advice to agencies, which I'm not going to go into now because I don't think it's the right audience, but there are a lot of challenges that agencies need to overcome. But one of the things that I love, so I'm a massive fan of outdoor. And what Tor was saying is that most outdoor ads make things look worse. I mean, if you just drive around, we don't have a lot of outdoor in Cape Town, but if you drive around Johannesburg and you look around, or anywhere, the outdoor, it's pretty awful. And he says, beautify, don't pollute. So this visual here is of these massive decals in the windows of the Apple store in New York for the Apple AirPods. And they're amazing. And they don't pollute. They really do beautify, and they're exciting. He also concluded by saying, and I completely agree with him, and that's why I think Cannes was so much better this year, was that he said, I don't think we have enough fun anymore. Things have gotten really serious. And his advice to agencies was that in order to do great, inspiring, optimistic, creative work, you've got to have some fun. So the first campaign I'm going to show you won a Gold Lion in film for Apple. And I think for me, what I loved about this is the simplicity. It's a big idea. Oh, that's another thing that he said. He said, look at your product. Sometimes the magic is actually in the product. And this is what Apple has done so cleverly. So this is an ad for the iPhone 14.
And we don't have audio on that.
Sorry, you don't have audio?
No, I'm afraid not. When you click share, did you click share audio? You may have to just stop the presentation for a moment and just...
Wow, okay, let me just see. My apologies, everyone. I didn't click share sound.
If you could just start that advert from the beginning, if you don't mind, please.
Sure. Presentation. Give me a sec. My apologies, everybody. This has not happened before. Okay, can you...
Cross that line, it ain't your day. I need my spot. Get out my way. 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 I need my spot.
Okay, that worked, didn't it?
It worked. If we can just resize the screen, because we're seeing various things on the screen.
This is bizarre. Okay, what are you seeing on the screen now?
Hey Siri, set my
We're
morning.
seeing the video together with things on the right-hand side, like an additional version of it.
Maybe just try reshare, Anne. I think it just didn't full screen properly.
The one thing that we know is no one is concerned about technical difficulties in the modern era. We all have them all the time.
Yeah, except me. I'm really, really concerned about this. Okay, let me share screen again.
But we do have a rule at Ogilvy. If there are no technical difficulties at the beginning, it's not going to be a good presentation.
Okay. This is so embarrassing. I'm not quite sure what to say.
No reason to be embarrassed. We have these things all the time. We're busy seeing your screen notes as well. Perfect.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
Can we show the previous one
Hey
as well, if
Siri,
you don't mind?
set
Yeah,
my
of
morning
course.
scene.
It's currently clear and 70.
Okay.
You in my lane, you in my way. You cross that line, it ain't your day. I need my spot. Get out my way. 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 I need my spot.
Okay, so that was the Apple iPhone. Then this next campaign is magnificent. It actually won a Grand Prix for music, and this is really talking about the features of the Apple phone for people with disabilities.
Hey Siri, set my morning scene.
It's currently clear and 71 degrees. Today's high will be 80 degrees.
Open weather, swipe left.
I am the greatest. I said that even before I knew I was. I am the greatest. I said that even before I knew I was.
Describe images.
Float like a butterfly, sing like a bee. His hands can't hit
A painting.
what his eyes can't see.
A red jacket.
Now you see me, now you don't. Sonny think he will, but I know he won't. Last week I blurred a rock into the stone. I spill eyes and brick. I'm so mean I make medicine sick.
I have wrestled with the alligator. Tussled with the whale.
Turn right.
Tap, take picture. Tap, take picture.
Two doors detected. Text to stage. Door 4 feet away.
So the good news is that, as I said earlier, humor is back. Andrew Robertson, who's the global CEO of BBDO, he said that he did a presentation on humor, and he said that a sad fact is that humor is in decline. Our world has been getting steadily and steadily less humorous all the way back to the early 2000s, and with particular dips due to the pandemic. And even at Cannes, it's been a real problem because even last year, only 1 out of the 10 golds and Grand Prix actually had humor in them. And then he pulled out some stats from a research company called Kantar and the Oracle Happiness Report, where it spoke about the fact that 90% of people will find humorous ads more memorable. They score 11 points, additional points on the Kantar Distinctiveness Study. 80% of people will recommend a humorous ad. So there's no doubt that humor actually does work. So I'm going to show you 3 campaigns that used humor. The first one is from AB InBev, who we would know here more as SA Breweries. This is their parent company who bought them. And this, I think, is just such a tongue-in-cheek, irreverent, humorous ad.
The origins of Stella Artois date back to 1366, to a small brewery in Leuven, Belgium. During the following years, it expanded to the whole of Europe, to what we now know is Stella Artois. We crossed our historical data with art history data and came up with a probability. First, we focused on the color of the beer and the type of glass to determine the style of the brew. In this case, a golden pigment with a Pilsner glass. Then, after establishing the painting's year and geolocation, we compared them with our original brewery brand records of current expansion and distribution to find the matches. By connecting all these variables, we could calculate that the beer being portrayed in all these paintings could, in fact, be an Artois. Together, we turned it into an exhibition at Buenos Aires' most prestigious museum, where Stella Artois launched an app that displayed the results when scanning the beer, with all the information gathered from more than 3,000 analyzed and uploaded paintings. Turning every painting with a beer into our campaign.
And the next one that I want to show you is for also another big brand called Claritin. Take a look at this.
See this tree right here? It's a male tree. Male trees produce pollen, the leading cause of allergies. Sadly, male trees far outnumber female trees in cities across America. On purpose,
It's a battle between male and female trees. And some experts say it could be making your allergies a lot worse.
You see, for decades, city planners have been planting male trees because they're easier to maintain, based on a 1949 USDA recommendation. The thing is, female trees don't produce pollen, they absorb it. Claritin, the leader in allergy relief, decided to take a stand. Introducing the Diversity Project, an initiative to restore botanical balance by making female trees more accessible to everyone. Each female tree traps pollen from the surrounding male trees. We started by planting female trees in the US cities with the highest levels of pollen. Anyone could order their own female tree, and along with the Arbor Day Foundation, we shipped female trees to 46 states across the US. Then we commissioned a study in partnership with Cornell University to arm policymakers with data the USDA hasn't had access to until now.
The first study of its kind to really figure out how tree planting campaigns can reduce pollen.
With a simple act of planting trees, Claritin isn't just relieving allergies, they're helping prevent them.
So let's plant some female trees, guys.
Every one of these day trees is a female tree.
And plant more female trees, like myself.
No more boy trees, only girl trees.
Really, so it's really fun, and it's for a big brand, which is great. Then the next campaign, if I didn't have another technical problem, is for British Airways. Now, Roanna judged outdoor, and this won the Grand Prix. I think that's a gorgeous campaign. Okay, so I think we know that everything is changing. This was Connie Brams, who's the Chief Digital and Commercial Officer at Unilever. She said consumers are changing, customers are changing, shopping's changing, technology's changing, and marketing is changing even faster. But one of the most important things, and I really am aware that this audience isn't necessarily only marketers, and I think that anybody who's running a business, whether it's professional services or it's consulting or whatever your brand is, you've got to understand that brand differentiation is one of the most important things. And what Connie said is that brand differentiation has been steadily declining over the last decade. And this is actually a bigger problem for marketers than anything to do with AI. So brand differentiation in any business is really absolutely crucial. So what she spoke about are the 3 marketing principles of Unilever. Firstly, they use data. They get real by using data and empathy to really understand the consumer pain points and to see how to solve them. Secondly, she said that they really believe in doing good. So whatever you do, you need to take action to drive positive change in your world. And thirdly, and I think most importantly, you have to use creativity to stand out. You can't be invisible. Something really interesting that she said, and I think was very apparent at Cannes this year, is that purpose has lost a lot of its sexiness. So in the past many years, purpose-driven ads were the ones that won the most awards. But this year they kind of lost their sexiness and they are losing them. And it's really because most people try to jump onto the bandwagon of good. And the difference is between having a purposeful campaign or putting purpose at the heart of your business. When you put it at the heart of your business, it becomes your compass. You do it authentically, and it's a phenomenal driver of growth. But if you are just greenwashing or just using purpose, just for your own purpose, it doesn't work. Another thing that she said marketers are forgetting a lot of, which is really important, is about consistency. So often you see brands changing their positioning all the time. So consistency is really important. So the example that I'm going to show you is Dove. So Dove has had the same campaign, not the same campaign, they've had the same message for 19 years. They've had the same purpose, and that is around real beauty. It's about giving young women confidence. And they've never deviated from it. The campaign that I'm going to show you that won a lot of awards this year, I think is really important, not just in terms, well, it's important in terms of the message for teenagers and for parents in terms of the hazards of social media.
Emma, sit down and I will read you a book.
You are so beautiful to me.
Good job, Mary.
You are so beautiful.
Hello for Mary and Addie's comedy show.
To me. Can't you see, dear Mary? Everything I hoped for. You're everything I need. You are so beautiful to me. You are so beautiful.
You want a small waist this summer when your favorite product is here. Alright, that's it. Come on.
To me. Can't you see? Everything I hoped for. You're everything I need.
Get yourself a tape measure. Thigh gaps are in.
You are so beautiful to
You are so beautiful to me. Can't you see? You're everything I hope for, everything I need. You are so beautiful to me. Can't you see?
I think that campaign is gut-wrenching, to be honest. And then when it comes to creativity, helping to change or helping to affect people and societal change, there's that one. And then take a look at this one.
If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it and you really want to show it, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands.
Bring me sunshine in your smile.
I'm boiling up.
Bring me laughter all the while. In this world where we live, there should be more happiness. So much joy you can give to each brand new bright tomorrow.
What are you gonna do today?
I would go run around in my new shoes.
Make me happy through the years. Never bring me any tears. Let your arms be as warm as the sun from up above. Bring me fun, bring me sunshine, bring me love.
Okay, so one of the great things about Cannes this year, as I said, it really was back to basics. And they really were focusing on brands. And one of the things that was demonstrated in the Lion's State of Creativity study that was released in April this year is that nearly half of the global creative community are prioritizing investments in targeted promotions, or what we call or performance marketing, i.e. short-termism. It's short-term promotions. And they're doing this at the expense of brand building and customer experience. This is becoming a massive issue. It's been going on for the last 10 years. And again, for anybody who has a business who has marketing, just take heed of some of the things that I'm going to be saying regarding short-termism and brand building. So Jim Stengel is the ex-marketing director of Procter & Gamble, and he runs a workshop at Cannes every year for the top marketing directors. And he asked them this year, what is the thing that is worrying you most in your marketing world? And it didn't come up AI or anything like that. It came up that they are most concerned that performance marketing or short-termism is affecting their brands. So he, together with Kate Lamberton and Ken Ferraro, wrote a fantastic article for the Harvard Business Review that I would encourage people to have a look at on the subject. And just one of the other things to remember is that people search, when it comes to brands, people search their memory before they look at Google. And in order to build that memory bank, you have to have brand building. Brand building is what builds the memory bank. It creates the memory for people, it creates the experience that people remember the brand by. Also, the other thing that happened this year was the creative work that jurors awarded showed new ways to build brands that disregarded traditional models. They seized attention and demonstrated how to get engagement and action. And what the advice was to anyone who has brands, consider how your brand can show up with heart and humor in new and unexpected ways. Experiment with new models, innovate with new partnerships, and also embed participation in your work. The other thing is that, and I think most people, marketers do know this, is that tech can elevate ideas, but it's not enough. It's the idea that counts. Tech can only enhance, it's not the idea altogether. And another thing that, and I think I mentioned this when I was showing the Apple work, it's about simplicity. Consumers don't want complexity, they want simplicity. So I'm going to show you 2 ads for IKEA that won gold. Just look at the simplicity of this, and these are all very low budgets. There is no sound. I'm really having problems with it. Sorry. Okay, so the case study I want to show you is for Heinz ketchup. Heinz is a 150-year-old global ubiquitous brand with a market share of over 70%. But they have consistently found new ways to make one of the oldest products in the supermarket feel newly iconic. After winning just 1 Lion many years ago, they have now won 32 Lions for 14 different campaigns. Campaign after campaign, Heinz distinctive assets have been incorporated into the work. They feel like they haven't just been incorporated into, they actually feel like they are the work. First, they stand out and gain attention. Then they make people feel better about the brand and the product. And then as a product of these two, they drive sales and profit outcomes. So what Megan Lang, who is the head of brand communications for Heinz North America, said, there was an opportunity to take the brand to the next level. And what they're doing is they are leading a culture of, they're trying to create a culture of creativity in their organization because their goal is to become the best marketer in the world. And they sat down and they looked at the brand and they saw that they have more similarities than differences around the world. And that then created opportunity to unify the brand globally. So when I said look at brands, putting brands in unexpected places, have a look what Heinz did with the World Cup.
Wait, am I going to the World Cup? I'm in the shade of downtown, checking out the city. Maybe you could find me. So these guys from Spain, they found me. The guys from Brazil, they found me. They found me. Look who found my friend from Korea.
Immediately stop the campaign.
love that. I mean, it was the cost of an air ticket and match tickets. Look at this one for a B2B campaign.
Miren esto, Kate se dio cuenta que su marca estaba tan instalada que había muchos ganadores.
You know, it's amazing. This is just ketchup. It's not the sexiest product on earth. And they still manage to make it sexy and grow sales. And I think the other thing that everybody needs to remember, and that's why CAP has become a lot more serious, because you can't really win a can line unless you have great results. So, you know, it has to deliver business results. It's not just fluff. So Hans speak about creating a culture of creativity. SAB speak about it, Procter & Gamble do, and so do Apple. And again, this is really important for anybody who's running a business, is how do you create a culture of creativity? Why should you have a creative culture? The bottom line is that creativity works. In a study from Walk and Kantar, they found that creative ads are 4 times more profitable compared to low creative quality ads. So creativity works. And the other thing is, creativity is not the sole domain of the creative department or the marketing department. Creativity can come from anywhere in an organization. So Walk, which is an amazing organization, they talks about creative strategy and creative effectiveness. They wrote a white paper on building a culture of creative effectiveness. And what they said is that so much has been written about how to make marketing communications more effective, but it barely touches on the culture behind that communication. And again, in the State of Creativity study of 2,500 marketers, almost half said that it was becoming increasingly difficult to motivate for marketing investment. And the bottom line is that culture is key. If you want to have creativity in your organization, you have to have a culture of creativity. So what are the things that you can do in your organization to have a creative culture? The first thing is, and I think this is probably more to do with marketing and finance and marketing organizations, you need to get buy-in from the C-suite. You need to get buy-in from the CEO. This will provide assurance of corporate support, including sign-off of marketing budgets. And unsurprisingly, the stronger the buy-in at the top of an organization around a culture of creativity, the more chance it has of being effective. Secondly, you need to build structures and processes around this. You need to have decision-making hierarchies that will be essential to propagating this vision. You need to identify key stakeholders that will be driving this culture of creative effectiveness. And thirdly, you need to embed this culture as deeply and widely as possible, because I think, as we all know, things change in a macroeconomic environment, and financial circumstances for brands change. And when that happens, it can actually undermine the alignment at the top in terms of creative culture. So the more you embed this creative culture as deeply and widely as possible, the more chance it has of succeeding. One of the most wonderful talks that I heard this year at Cannes was from MasterCard. So the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer, Raja Ramana, and their CFO, their Chief Financial Officer, Sanchin Mehra, came onto the stage. It was the first time that a Chief Financial Officer has ever taken the stage at Cannes. And they had an illuminating talk. And what they were doing, they were talking about how they created a happy tension between marketing and finance. They applied a lot of the principles that I've mentioned before, and they applied some others that they believe in. But the bottom line is that it's all about trust. It's all about the trust that there has to be in the organization, particularly between marketing and finance. One of the best experiments that they did, which is working so well, which is very unusual, is that Sanchin Mehra, the CFO, is actually embedded in the marketing department. So he has two lines of reporting, one to finance and one to marketing. But the most important thing and the most insightful thing is that it's all about driving profitability and market share. That's what everybody wants. Everyone has the same objectives in an organization. It's just that the lens that finance looks at this through is different to the way that marketing looks at it. But again, it all boils down to trust. And this is not, it's not an easy tension to create, happy tension to create, but it's essential in order to drive the culture of creativity. This is a campaign that MasterCard did that won a Grand Prix, which is amazing.
This is the biggest migration crisis in Europe after the Second World War.
We have 300,000 coming to just one city. So, of course, it puts an enormous strain on the city services.
Millions of people who are not in their home country who have to make a go of it.
There are many possibilities in the smaller cities, more accommodation, more work possibilities.
Ти маєш і можеш зрозуміти, де ти можеш жити, скільки налогів.
Chodźcie, pokażę wam moje miasto.
Mamy nawet pośrednictwo pracy dla osób z Ukrainy.
Olbrzymi krok i bardzo ważne wsparcie w procesie budowania tej autonomii.
PKB Polski może wzrosnąć o 2-3% właśnie z tytułu migracji.
AB InBev, who's the company that bought SAB Miller, is the world's largest brewer. And for the second year in a row, they were awarded Creative Marketer of the Year, it's never happened before. But again, it's all about a culture of creativity. And again, it has to start at the top with the CEO. And Michael Tsakuris, who is the CEO of AB InBev, he said that winning this award for the second year in a row is a testament to every single person in the marketing department. Marcel Macondes, who is the Chief Marketing Officer of AB InBev, when he accepted the award on the stage, he paid tribute to every single one of his agency partners, because without the agency partners, they could never, ever have achieved this incredible feat. So the one campaign I want to show you, two campaigns I'm going to show you. This first one is for Budweiser, and when it comes to a brand having to pivot, I don't think there's a better example.
In 2022, the World Cup was finally here, and we spent 4 years preparing for the moment, signing 3 of football's biggest stars, making an entire music video, and creating our most ambitious global campaign to date. But 2 days before the World Cup, the unthinkable happened.
Sky News understands that football fans will no longer be allowed to buy alcohol.
This is one of the great frauds of all time.
Earlier today, Budweiser tweeted, well, this is awkward.
But just when it seemed like Budweiser was out of the game, we flipped the script.
Budweiser will ship the unsold beers to the winning country.
In less than 24 hours, we challenged the world to bring home the Bud. We pivoted our global strategy into an all-out sprint, turning every moment on the pitch into an opportunity for fans around the world to bring home all that beer. With no Buds in the stadium, we forced our way onto the pitch. And all over the world, we created a global rallying cry as we showed up in major cities overnight. Soon enough, football fans everywhere were making noise for their team to bring home the Bud. Then finally came the time to find out who's gonna celebrate with all this Bud. Argentina turned their World Cup victory into a beer delivery for the entire country. But they weren't the only ones who won at the World Cup.
Argentina recibirá toda la cerveza Budweiser.
Cerveza gratis, ¿qué te parece?
Going from banned to the most talked about brand at the world's biggest sporting event.
And then finally, this is the Ogilvy campaign that Camilla worked on that won gold and was shortlisted for a titanium. Here is Bread of the Nation.
South Africans are starving.
About 12.8 million people in South Africa have gone to bed hungry this week alone.
Brands that have our scale have an immense responsibility to do work that positively impacts the communities in which we operate. After the process of lautering, we're left with all the spent grain.
So what we've been able to innovate is a unique recipe, capturing the spent grain from our brewing process and converting it into flour. We know that our ingredients are of such a high quality that they can be repurposed for a food product like bread.
Bread of the Nation.
Bread of the Nation.
Bread of the Nation.
This flour has up to 3 times the fiber that you find in most natural products on the shelves in the supermarkets. This is why initiatives like this are very important to actually bring more breads into the communities.
By partnering with SA Harvest, we're able to make this a truly national initiative.
We are working together with SA breweries to stave off that feeling of hunger. By leveraging our nationwide distribution channel and our community-based organizations, we're able to reach every corner of South Africa. In 2022, we delivered just over 20 million meals.
ate it and I was dancing when I was eating it. I said, this bread is so nice.
I feel like this conversation is really going to get your attention. Very soon, the bread that you and I eat will be made from the byproducts of the ingredients used to make beer.
Lager together with SA Harvest launched their first of its kind bread of the nation. Bread of the nation. Bread of the nation.
Bread of the nation. Bread of the nation.
Bread of the nation. The answer as to why this type of initiative is important, I think, is fairly obvious.
So congratulations to Camilla and Ogilvy for this, and thank you.
And an amazing presentation and some remarkable creativity. Let's get everyone back on. I know Camilla's having load shedding issues at the moment, so she'll try join us. But if not, we've got lots to talk about and think about. And Ro, you were one of the judges. Tell us what you thought about this year.
So this year, the outdoor category for me was just phenomenal. And I think the most important thing for me specifically the outdoor category was that, when we think of outdoor, we immediately go to a billboard, or even though, it's not that. It is so much more than that. It's the outdoor space, anything that's not sort of in your home, it's so broad. So the diversity of the work that we actually got to go through was phenomenal. At some stages, like some of the judges, we were asking, is this actually outdoor? And then we would discuss and say, well, actually it is, because it's just taken on a completely different form. Look at the bread of the nation, for example. That one in out of home, and that's a loaf of bread. Consumed, and it's consumed in the outdoors. People are interacting with it, so it becomes a piece of outdoor, and a phenomenal piece as well. That was one of the pieces which was very interesting, because we did have a discussion, and that was where I spoke earlier about the cultural thing, is where it's lovely having in the room judges that are from the specific countries, because you can really explain the back end of an idea and why it's such an important idea for a certain kind of country, which is really amazing. But yeah, that said, Anne actually showcased my one favorite piece, which is the British Airways that won the Grand Prix. And for me, what really stands out for me in British Airways was that it's a brand leaning into its heritage, right? It's leaning into what it's all about. And it's all about flying. And we've all had those thoughts, we all fly for different reasons, but it's the way they brought that to life in the environment that they're in. And if they had done 1 or 2 billboards, it would have fallen really, really flat. The fact that they did 512 and they're advertising to absolutely every single age group, you name it, diversity, inclusivity, you name it, it's all there. And the lines are written so beautifully, and also some of them placed very strategically and very sort of tactically in places. It just was an incredible example of how, we can be so simple, but executed at a level that is just it blows your mind away. Yeah.
I want to tell you which was by far my favorite, and then I'm going to ask Sue what she thought. I loved the 2 IKEA ads because they were just so natural, they were just so real, and it was something that you experience all the time. And in their simplicity, I think forever for me, they'll be so memorable. Sue, what did you think?
I also called out the British Airways. I'm a writer, so I absolutely loved that piece. And I think one of the media partners said it made you fall in love with writing again. But since we already spoke about it, I'll call out the other pieces of work that I really loved. And that was the Apple stuff, the non-shakeable camera. I think what I love about that work, and they've been doing more and more of it, is focusing on the product itself, the product features, and making that the hero. And it's what Anne said really early on, is back to simplicity, back to really just letting the product speak for itself, but doing it in a charming, funny, memorable way. So that work really did stand out, and it's quite enviable.
Camilla, last year when Ed showed us some of the adverts, they seemed to be very politically correct. And this year, we seem to be back to normal. Have you seen that kind of almost that swing that people just want to kind of get on with the mainstream rather than look at the fringes to try prove their credentials?
I mean, I think there has been a bit of a switch. I think there's a time and place for everything. But I think people are also in the space now where, after the hell we've been through over the last 3 years, in order to create sort of true meaning and stuff that resonates with people, we have to be able to be authentic, genuine, open, and put things out there that are lesser expected. So I think, yeah, definitely within the space of the last 3 years, I think we got to the point where we just had it. And now it was time to put out the stuff we really wanted to do and to build brands in that way. So I think there has been a bit of a switch. But again, for me, it's all very time and place.
So besides for your own ad, and I'm dying to try it because I want to know if the bread tastes like beer. So maybe you're going to tell us that first, and then tell us what else resonated with you.
So firstly, it tastes nothing like beer. I can say that. And obviously it's not alcoholic as well. It's actually very tasty. I was completely surprised because obviously that's what we wanted and that's what we expected. But to get to that level, I think we were all very thrilled. We actually want to start putting it in some mainstream stores so everyone can have a taste. But it's an incredible quality product, and I mean, throw a bit of jam on it and, you know, you're A for away. So it's a good tasting product. It's also incredibly filling. And because the levels of nutrients and protein are higher, you do feel that when you eat it.
I heard the voice of Alan Brody, my friend. He clearly doesn't have the face for an advert, but Miles, my friend, clearly does. So I'm happy to see that he actually did crack his image in that ad.
Yes. Yeah, no, I mean, so as I say, massive passion piece. And, you know, as for the rest, I know, as I say, we've spoken about it, but being a writer as well, the British Airways stuff is great. I can instantly think of 100 more lines I would want to write. And I think the tactical opportunities there are endless. And I just hope they keep going.
And so you know, like everyone says, they all love their children equally, but we know that's not true. Which one was your favorite ad?
My favorite. I love the Apple work, but I think for me, the one that hit home the most was Dove. Because I think that what it is saying and the message, I think Dove, because of the message and to try and put a stop to what's going on, the impact on young girls with social media. I also love Heinz because I think it's just a tomato sauce. And what they have done with that brand consistently is put it into fresh, unexpected places. And they've driven sales, they've driven relevance, and they've driven sales because it could become just an irrelevant ketchup on the supermarket shelf, but they've never allowed it to do that. And that for me is brilliant. Obviously, I love Bread of the Nation because I think that, you know, it's Castle, it's South Africa, and not just that, they're feeding hungry people. So I have out there a whole lot that I really do love. And I just to your point with IKEA, so I'm going to say something a little contentious, and my panel will also jump in. South Africa didn't have its best year ever at Cannes this year. And one of the things I think that IKEA does show is that, you know, you don't have to have a big budget. You don't have to have this unbelievable bandwidth. And it's a big idea executed simply. So for me, that was the real relevance of IKEA, how big an idea it was executed simply. I think the same with Apple iPhone. It's a low budget commercial. It's about the product. It's the insight of it doesn't shake. That's what it's about. So that's for me, Cannes this year came back to basics. It's about the brand, it's about simplicity, it's about creativity and how creativity can build brands and businesses.
So Sue, why didn't we have a better year at Cannes?
I think that the landscape is getting harder and harder. I think that Anne spoke a lot about performance marketing, and that's, I think, the enemy of most of us in this room. And that has its place, but I think if you're not building brands, then you're not making creativity work for you, and you're not getting to the hearts and minds of people. So I think that we're a lot of brands, marketers their budgets are being cut. They're under massive pressure where their jobs are on the line. So they're going for the shortest, quickest route to get to people. And so I think a lot of that is happening. And it's not just South Africa. When we speak to our global partners, colleagues overseas, they're all going through it. And I think getting that work through is getting harder and harder. But it's not the end of the world. I still think that I have a romantic belief in South African creativity. And I remember in May this year, I showed some work in New York to the One Club board, and it was not about award-winning work. It was about South African flavored work. And the people on that board loved it, and they spoke about it, and they said, why can't we have more of this and this levity and this humor? So I still have a faith and belief in it. I think we're going through a massive wave of disbelief in branding, and hopefully that will come back, because brands are human in some way. They behave like humans, and you've got to fall in love with a brand in order to have it in your life. So hopefully that will come back.
Oh, it will come back.
It's expensive to enter Cannes as well.
And
I think a lot of South African agencies struggle to spend that amount per entry. So I think we also have less in the game.
Yeah, we have a lot less in the game, 100%.
And I think also, sorry, Ro, and I think also what Cam said, some of the work that we do here is so amazingly South African. And then do the Cannes judges actually recognize and appreciate that? I think that's another factor.
So now, and one of the things we did is we asked all of our guests to submit 1 or 2 pieces that they would like to highlight. And I'd love, we're going to show the British Airways ad again as part of that, but I'd love to show each one individually, and then let's actually talk about those ads, the ads that our guests really, things that resonated with them. I don't know if it's their own creativity or just stuff that they saw, but let's start maybe with the first one, and then we'll stop after that and we'll go on to discuss.
I was involved in an accident because someone didn't see me in the blind spot. This is the result of it.
I was flung from a motorbike and I hit the paving across the street.
closer I got, the more detail of the actual installation started coming to life.
So we're driven to helping the people of South Africa regardless of their mode of transport. We don't only want to protect Volkswagen drivers, we want to ensure the safety of all road users in South Africa, making sure that people know what to look for and what to look out for on the roads.
When everyone's using the road every single day to commute, we all need to look out for each other.
Guys, I think absolutely remarkable. Camilla, you submitted that one to us, did you?
Yeah, it's actually one of our pieces. It ended up winning a silver and a bronze in Cannes, but I really wanted to give it a little bit of extra space, so hence the reason I submitted it here.
I've never seen that campaign before. I'm actually blown away by it. I'd love to hear what the other panelists say.
I would love to talk about this piece. So when I first saw this piece, it was online, and I just said, oh my God, it's one of those pieces. I come from an art background, so I just thought, I wish I had done that. I think it is absolutely beautiful. And it's also just a lovely way of addressing that type of issue. I mean, you haven't really seen that before. And again, it was at Cannes, it was in my category, and it got a bronze. I wish it had got higher, but Cannes, the thing with Cannes is they talk a lot about scale, and they say that, you know, these the problem with these one-off pieces is that you're not getting enough scale. And that was what was so sad. I was like, damn it, man, come on, give it more. So it was just a kind of an interesting debate, you know, and that happens at Cannes a lot. It is a lot about scale. But this piece as craft, as an interesting piece of art, was absolutely exquisite. Yeah.
Great to hear.
And I also think what I love about it, I mean, I also had the same feeling. I was like, damn, I wish I'd done that. Is that all car brands can talk about the same thing, can talk about a blind spot, but VW took it upon themselves to do it in a way that differentiated from the rest and made it memorable, using art as a way to get to a point around safety. It helps you. Like, you never know the impact of something like that. You know, if you get told 1,000,000 times to watch your blind spot, you're probably not going to think about it as much as if you see a piece like that. And that's the power of advertising and impact. So yeah, that's why I love it.
And I have heard a criticism before that ad agencies produce a piece of work just to win awards, and they flight it once and it's never seen again, but they know that's what will appeal to the judges. In Cannes, is that not the case at all?
So it's not the case. And what was interesting this year is that was high on the agenda. So if you spotted anything that felt vaguely like scam, it's out. It's just out. Oh. Yeah, gone. And everyone is way more aware of that type of work, because we don't want the industry to be doing that type of work, because it's not sustainable, right? We've got to do work that actually drives, you know, business and actually has an effect on business, right? So that is top of the agenda at Cannes at the moment, yeah. And all the judges are very wide, and they're all like, we had a lot of discussions regarding work that felt a bit scammy, yeah.
Cool. Let's watch our next piece, and then we can come back once again and comment.
It wasn't a smile for camera. It was a real, I am happy.
Full of life, full of future. That's Alex.
I think when this photo was taken, he had everything going for him. When he did take his own life, me and my family and our friends, we looked back at were there any signs, and we didn't see anything.
Today, the charity are launching their new campaign in the hope of saving lives.
So I'm on South Bank right now, surrounded by 50 absolutely incredible and very beautiful images. Everyone is smiling, everyone's seemingly very happy. But the very sad news is that every single one of these people tragically took their own lives. Now, these were the last photos taken of these people.
Incredible.
It's powerful. None of these look suicidal.
You'd never know. Felt slightly overwhelmed, actually.
Bring me fun, bring me sunshine, bring me love.
It overturns this idea we have of people who are suicidal.
That word, suicide, is still taboo. It's still shrouded in shame and stigma. They're our friends, our mums, our dads, our partners, our kids.
There was no signs, nothing.
Suicide doesn't have a look, cliched or otherwise.
My brother used to bottle things up. We hear this too often.
I didn't have any idea what was actually going on behind his smile.
Suicide comes at you fast.
We want people to talk about suicide. It's a directly preventative measure.
Seeing my brother there just brought everything back. You really have to try and listen. Save one life would be miraculous for me.
I think shocking and perturbing. Anne, what do you think?
Oh, it's really perturbing, but I mean, it's really so sad. But the thing is that if it improves the conversations, if it highlights conversations, if it stops suicide, a few suicides, then it's worth it. But if you just sweep it under the carpet and you don't face up to the fact that normal people look normal before they commit suicide, it's just going to go undetected. So I think it's raised such an important issue, is that you need to look more closely at people because they don't look suicidal some of them before they commit suicide. It's a very, very powerful campaign, and the results have been, in terms of the conversations and the donations and the awareness level, have been huge. And that's where creativity can, that's what I said earlier, influence society and make a difference.
Camilla, in a country like South Africa, where there's such a history and so much that we deal with in terms of poverty and food, is there room to address other social issues like this on a large scale within the country?
I think we absolutely have to. I think, what blows my mind every time I see this piece is that it is such a strong, provocative insight. And you can't create a piece of work like this if you don't have that at its core. And I think as long as we are finding the right insights at the right time and producing work that really speaks to people, then we absolutely can take it on. And I think we should. It's not just all about the core sort of hunger, poverty. I think there are other issues we should be taking on a daily basis. And I think brands here do actually have a responsibility to do that if it feels authentic to them. So, any brand in South Africa should be taking on some kind of cause. And I think doing it consistently over time to see real results. But as I say, I can watch that case film over and over again, and each time I find something new about it that is just exceptional. But I also believe that they could have spent 1,000 Rand on that campaign and it still would have worked because of how strong the insight is.
Yeah, what's so powerful for me is that, when you first, it was also again in my judging room, and people responded to it before they had even seen it in the judging room, and it had hit them right in their heart. And they said it made them, go to their kids and really pay attention, because if you're living in the world of social media, right? And we often scroll all day and we see people with happy pictures and and it just puts a different lens on things, because we, behind those people, there may not be happiness, so it's weird because it's something we see every day. And then what this campaign does is it just makes you pay much more attention to it. And I think that's the power of, in fact, the power of what we do as creatives, is it's an insight we all know, we kind of have heard before, but we never really paid attention. But the actual campaign is so powerful, it makes you go, whoa, okay, let me pay attention now, which is really strong for me. Yeah.
I want to show the British Airways ad again now, because travel is something that we all do. And I want to come back and ask you for your tagline. Camilla, I think you said you were a writer, this is something that resonates for you. So I want to give everyone a shot after watching this about what you would put in as the third option on if you were given the opportunity to copyright the next one. So, Suhana, is it unfair to ask you to go first? If you could write the next...
No, I have it already because I just made a trip recently, and mine would have been against my better judgment. If I must be honest, I went to visit an ex and all my girlfriends said, no, don't do that. And I did it anyway. It was a closing off of a chapter. So there we have it.
Although it could have reopened the book.
No, it closed the book now in a nice way.
Okay, so what you're really saying is you're available, and to the thousands of people watching us, the next chapter is ready to be written.
For work and for romance. Let's put it that way.
And what would you have written?
Oh God, I was leaving it to the copywriters. Go to Roanna. I was leaving it to the copywriters, to be honest.
I see Margaret Hirsch that said eternal summer, and I'd love to see the people watching us what you would love to
let's hear from other people.
So please use the chat section. Let us know what you put in.
I hadn't even thought about it.
Roanna?
Yeah, I had to think quickly there. So it's been a top of mind recently, and I would probably have to say to go watch my husband eat a deep fried cricket.
I have watched people do that, not something that I plan on doing again. Okay.
So I quickly wrote 3 just in preparation. The first one is to just have brand new experiences. I think it's such an important part of this industry, and in order to keep doing it, you need to have other experiences. The next one is because to produce great creative work, you have to have these experiences. You have to have these eye-opening moments. You've got to have these sort of real, sort of proper moments in culture. And then the last thing is just to spend a few weeks away from load shedding.
Nice.
So having just returned from country number 77 for me, I think I'm qualified to actually complete that. And I would say 3 university degrees, but the only education I ever got was from travel.
Nice.
Very cool.
So
look at the chat, Howie. Larry Button says, because life after 70 is still exciting. Isn't that great?
Camilla, don't comment. We know what you said to 70-year-olds last time you were on the show.
Stop it. In the past.
Good memory, Howie. I don't even remember that. I do remember there was something, but not quite that.
So I want to show the last advert we're going to show tonight, and it's enormously impactful. So I want to show that, and then we'll come back and do our last round.
Good morning. I'm looking. Basically, I'm trying to find information on who South Africa's first university graduate of color was. Hello. How is it that I can't find anything? So no one knows. Nothing on pre-apartheid. Pre-apartheid black intellectuals. Nothing.
Graduate Professional Insurer PPS presents Finding the Forgotten Graduate. A 20-month collaboration between historians, actuaries, and creatives to resurrect the success of a forgotten Black life and pay it forward into the future with the world's only posthumous life policy.
Part of this was science and part of this was art.
9 months of academic research across 3 continents. 38 weeks restoring, writing, and recording the truth. 8 pioneering intellectuals of color unearthed in the quest to find the first. All captured in an interactive circular journey through time and ignited by a provocative integrated campaign.
Charlotte Clerke died on October.
He was 6 when they lowered his father's consumptive body into the South African soil.
It was a Tuesday in 1858 when William came into the world. As father held son in his hands, his mind braced under the weight of this little life. An entire destiny, an unfathomable future, unimaginable potential.
In 2022, Dr. William Anderson Soga was officially recognized as South Africa's first Black graduate. His success finally catalyzed, changing the futures of 2 exceptional scholars, and counting, thanks to a life policy payout made 106 years after death.
I think one of the most beautiful career. Who did that?
It's an agency called Promise. I wish it was my work, but it isn't. And I remember judging it at the Bookmarks, which is another advertising show in South Africa. And it stood out. It was the piece that everybody just, like when you're in a judging room, you're quite tempered in how you approach your criticism of work, whether it's positive or negative. But this one, people were just gushing with love for it, because I think it has bigger meaning and impact. I think it's more than just an ad campaign. It's literally taken us back and rewritten the past. And I think it's relevant to the brand. And that's what's important for me, is that we were speaking earlier about purpose. And there's nothing wrong with doing work that's purpose-driven, as long as it's relevant to your brand, as long as it makes sense for your brand to participate in that conversation. So for me, it's amazing. I think the video doesn't do it full justice. If you have a chance, go and look at the website itself, because you could spend hours on it. And that's another way we also look at things. If the jury room is willing to listen to a 5-minute piece of audio and not be bothered by it and continue to listen, it means that content got to you and it really spoke to you. So it's beautifully crafted. It's a history piece living on a website. And I think it should go to schools. It's really powerful.
I think it should, and I want to talk about 2 things relating to it before I pass it onto the other panelists. The one is that Charlotte Makeke, who was the first Black African woman graduate, her home is in Kliptown in Soweto, and you can go visit her home. There's a fantastic blue plaque on it, and I think it's an important place for people to go in Kliptown to visit. That's the first thing. The second thing is David Munro. I don't know if any of you have seen the video. He's the former CEO of Liberty Life. And he gave a speech for the 125th anniversary of King Edward's School, Kess School in Johannesburg. And if you haven't seen this address, I'm going to actually post it into the chat right now. It's one of the most beautiful speeches ever made. But into his speech, he tells the story how his parents were teachers at the school. And one day, Donald Gordhan, who goes and creates Liberty Life, comes to his father, who was his maths teacher, and says, I became who I am. I developed this company because of what you taught me as my maths teacher. And I've decided to pay you and your wife a pension for life to say thank you for everything that you did for me. Mm-hmm. And the fact that David Munro has told the story, and he himself later becomes CEO of Liberty himself, and he goes back to the school to tell the story how Donald Gordhan, a graduate of the school, goes back to pay homage to his teachers and to give them thanks for everything that they did and pay them a lifetime. In fact, his maths teacher lives for an additional year. The wife lives for an additional 24 years. So he paid 25 years worth of pensions to people just because of what they've done. It just resonates so much with me. And what do you think?
Oh, I think this campaign is absolutely brilliant. I really do. It's magnificent. And I think, you mentioned this Kess story and David Munro to me the other day. I haven't had a chance yet to listen to his speech, but I just think the whole thing of paying it forward and that spirit of generosity is just so special and so valuable. But Sue, I love this campaign. And when I saw it the other day with Howie, I hadn't actually seen it before. So I was just quite stunned by it. It's magnificent.
Roanna, what do you think?
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I think what it also shows us is that, as creatives, we have like a very important responsibility to record history and to make it right. And I think we have that power, and we need to use that more and more, especially in the country we come from. And seeing a campaign like this is just phenomenal from that perspective, so I hope, as an example of South African creativity going forward, let's hope we see much more that does this kind of work. Yeah, beautiful.
Camilla, everyone says they want to have done your work, but when you look at something like that, do you say, oh, I wish that was mine?
I'm beyond jealous. It's actually the first time I've seen it, but I am beyond jealous. I think aside from the fact that the content is critical and the insight is great, the level of craft is sort of something to be completely admired. And to be able to tell a story like this through the channel of digital, because I think so many people for a long time have said, oh, but you can't tell stories on digital. That's a whole different type of experience. But this is showing what is possible, but also for this to have come out of a South African agency. Like, I think it'll feature hugely in Cannes Digital next year, which we're not good at doing. I imagine this was a very, very long project to produce. I think there was a huge amount of patience, but I think it has been completely worth it. And I'm going to check out that site right now and go through these stories. I think it's a phenomenal piece of work.
Yeah, it was 20 months of collaboration, like 9 months of research. So I think kudos to a brand also to invest in that kind of time frame. Most brands want everything quickly done overnight. And so obviously this was a piece that required that kind of time frame. So I respect the brand.
I am, yes, jealous. I'm also annoyed because, again, I really want to be creating this stuff as well, but I'm proud. This is when we need to sort of stand up for our South African work as not competitors, but as a big team who just trying to put, our country on the map.
So I want to do one last circuit of the panel, but while I do that, I want to pose the same questions to our audience. What is your all-time favorite ad of all time? And I'm going to pose that to our panel, and my sense is people are going to tell us Cremora, it's not inside, it's on top, or they're going to tell us Rolex Magnum, or they're going to tell us Creepy Crawly. But I'd love if you think back into the annals of your history, what is the one ad in some way that really just stands out? And I'm going to ask all of our panelists, some are of different age groups, so you may not even remember the Cremora ad, am I allowed to say? But Patricia's telling us the Peter Stuyvesant ads. Remember the ones you'd see at movies with people on yachts and boats? Unbelievable. Graham says Telcom Valley. I don't remember that one. But Anne, let's start with you. Okay. What is your best ad of all time?
Okay, I've got two. There's one South African, and that's the BMW Mars commercial, on the steering wheel. That will always stay with me. I think that it is, again, it's about the brand, it's a demo, it's just, and the craft and the insight and the execution. Globally, my favorite is Nike Colin Kaepernick, Dream Crazy. And not just the commercial, but the whole campaign. I just thought that it was absolutely about a brand being on the right side of history. So that's me. So a local and a global.
So Roanna, before I come to you, I just want to tell you, Simi says Cremora, something soft. Epol dog food. Paul says the early Nando's ads. Kareem says Caltex. Larry says the Apple versus PC ads. Gloria says a little dab will do. Linda says lunch bar. I think that's much more munch, if I'm not mistaken. Dimitri says Wimpy. I love it when you talk foreign. Muriel says John Lewis Christmas ad, the little boy that is so excited. I'm just looking at Redro. Ingrid said Redro. And Debbie says you can stay as you are for the rest of your life, or you can change to mainstay. I think that's indelibly marked in all of our minds. Jason says the VW advert. Elaine, the Geico advert. Briarflay, Sunny Skies, and Chevrolet from Margaret. VW Memories says Denzel. Cremora, it's on top, says Morris. Apple, 1984, one of probably the greatest ads ever made. Alan says T-Mobile. Kareem, TDK. Larry, Briarflace. VW, Beetle, father to son. Kerry says Gaulois. Those Gaulois cigarettes. Alan Gray says Merle. You have to tell us which Alan Gray. Pamela says Eno. Carmen says Coca-Cola, but there've been so many Coke ads. Estelle clearly has been impacted by Viagra. I don't know which ads she's been watching, but I'm glad it's made a big impact on her life. So relatable. But people are telling us, Roanna, tell us about your favorite ad of all time.
So there's so many, hey? There are so many. But, you know, I also love BMW Miles. That was one of the ones that came straight into my head. But, you know, there's this crazy ad, and it's so old. And it's so not like, oh, this long storytelling, la, 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 la. It was a simple problem. Shreddies. Shreddies was a square cereal, square like that. And their market share went, and they needed the agency to do something, turn it around completely. So what did they do? They created diamond-shaped shreddies. So it's a square. All they did was this on the box. That's it. The market share went like this. I just feel that that is such a clever, simple advertising idea that's just mind-blowingly brilliant. And then another one which is more contemporary for me is I think it won last year at, or maybe the year after before, at Cannes. It's called Beats by Dre. It's just the most beautifully written, insightful, gosh, just hits home. It's just a beautiful ad, Beats by Dre.
The Muriel says the VW ad with a dad driving through town and the baby's crying and they stop the cars and they look at each other. Ruth says only a fool breaks the 2-second rule to keep a safe driving distance. The British Airways advert with the Aria song, says Jason. And Twally for Twally, one of the greatest Checkers ads of all time. Michelle says Kit Kat. Byrne says Lexington After Action Satisfaction. Jeff says Yellow Pages. Pamela says you can't take every cough to your doctor. Estelle just says it's hilarious. Mike Levy says McAish is his favorite. Ian says the Nando's Dictators. Merle says son sending money home to his father in rural South Africa really resonates with her. Michelle says Viagra that falls into the small car and then it gets big. Inez says, where's my chips, Nando's or Wimpy? Dimitri says, Telkom Molo. Ray says, the gentleman who asked the receptionist, do you know who I am? And she broadcasts that there's a man who doesn't know who he is. Marilyn says, Nando's Tail Gunner. Robert said smoke Texan and cough like a cowboy. Ian says Castro Butt and Soir. And Sulak says, I agree with Merle, the Alan Gray. We'll come back and tell you a few more after we've heard from Suhana.
Sure, this audience knows its ads, eh? Mine is Alan Gray, also the beautiful ad with the I think it was shot in Argentina, and it was, my papa always said, look for potential and then have the patience to wait for it. It's one of my ultimate favorites. And then my international favorite is the Pepsi ad, the Pepsi Coca-Cola with the little Italian girl who she's so cute and adorable, and then she drinks the Pepsi or the Coke and she turns into a gangster, mafia gangster. So I agree with Ro, there's too many. It's like asking what's your favorite book or movie, but yeah, those ones for me.
Lester says Beermanskap, Le Plaisir. Gloria says Vodacom. Vodacom, oh doctors, I'm in trouble, from Jason Sack. Ja, But Castro, says Inez. MWeb with the mouse pointer, got you to get yourself connected. So Camilla, before I come to you, because you are the expert in this, I want to say my favorite of all times is the BMW advert taken on the mountains of Cape Town, where they go past the barrier that a Mercedes had crashed through and gone down. And it says BMW, it beats the Benz, spelled B-D-S. And of course, it was considered competitive advertising and ultimately pulled. But I think that for me will forever remain as such an impactful ad in my psyche. So Camilla, tell us what's in your head. What do you love?
Again, there are so many. They're all racing through my mind now. So I'm just going to speak about two, just because these are the ones I always return to when I feel like I need a bit of inspiration. And I'm going to post them here, if you don't mind. The first one is for the National Lottery in London. It's called This Girl Can. So I'm going to pop it here. But I think, you know, when I saw this for the first time, I was blown away because it's all just about proper, authentic females in sport and how everyone has the ability to do something. And I think being able to put a camera on what reality is versus, you know, what expectation is great. So I watch this a lot. It's a fantastic track. I think they couldn't have done this better. So this ad, watch a lot. And then the next one is just something that came to me recently. I was researching it for another ad, but this is the Pedigree Child Replacement Program. This was done, I think it was Australia or New Zealand, and it's not an ad, it's sort of it's a whole program that they put together. But there's such a humor that goes into it that you just can't deny. So it's basically when all your kids leave the house and they go to university and you feel like you've been a bit abandoned and you're a bit alone. This is now all about getting a dog, so adopting a dog. And using all of your kids' old stuff that they've left behind to turn into materials for the dog. So it becomes a dog basket, or, you know, your child's rugby top could then become the dog's top, etc. And it was just such a fun way of looking at this new stage of life. So I watch these two often.
So, Anne, the closing words come to you. Before we thank all of our remarkable panelists this evening, and especially to you for just the most amazing presentation, so entertaining, so informative, so educational, and so inspiring, what do you hope you'll be telling us when you come and do your presentation in 2024?
I really hope that more brands focus on creativity. I really hope that more marketers, agencies really focus on creativity. I think, yes, in order to make a positive difference, but really just to differentiate brands, to build the experiences. Because let me tell you something, every ad that everybody has mentioned here, most of them are pretty old, but they were all about brand building. And they're people who can remember the words. And that's what we've got to get back to. We've got to get back to building brands, not looking for clicks. And because that's what I think we've lost. And if we can do that, and we can get back to that type of thing of brand building, brand experiences, I think that would be great.
Well, you've taught us something, and I want to use the words of Coca-Cola. I'd love to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. One of the greatest ads ever made. To our guests this evening, a huge thank you to all of you. To those of you who are watching, just thank you so much for watching. Please leave a thank you for all of our panelists as well. They've given up their Sunday evening to be able to entertain and inspire us all. And I think it's just been the most remarkable evening. Thank you to all of you watching, but especially to the 4 people on the screen at the moment. Just a huge thank you to all of you. We look forward to seeing you all again. And thank you for inspiring all of our lives with remarkable talent, creativity, and stories that we'll remember forever. Thanks. Good night, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Sue.
Bye.
Bye.